Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Wright Brothers podcast. John, I am so excited to talk about the West. The West is so much better than the East.
It is. We like to call it the D1 division. Now that we're done with D2.
Do we? I wasn't aware. That's a good name for it, though.
I'm waiting for the Cavaliers because they're like pretty far out west. Like they can get promoted. Maybe like the Lakers will get relegated.
The baby Lakers.
Yeah. It's also Halloween. We should point out. Happy Halloween, William.
Yes. Happy Halloween, everybody. Actually, it's taken us.
Oh wait, actually, it's not anymore.
It took us so long to get this podcast up. It's actually not Halloween anymore, but that's fine. Nobody needs to know. All right. Let's get started with the actual basketball. As you mentioned, we have already started talking about the Lakers, and the reason we're talking about the Lakers is we're doing over-unders, and they have the lowest projected over-under in the Western Conference at 24.5 games.
That would actually be quite an improvement on last year, where they only won 17 games.
This is true.
I could definitely see it happening. I think there's going to be some major addition by subtraction with the retirement of Kobe Bryant.
With one of the top 10 players of all time leaving.
Yes, we've expressed our sentiments towards Kobe Bryant's late career performance in previous podcasts, but
as much fun as his final game was,
I'll actually be missing him too much on the court.
I did enjoy the theater of his final game.
Oh yeah, no, that was great.
60 points on 50 shots. That's pretty impressive. Impressively bad, but still.
Like the most Kobe way he could go out.
I know, it was perfect.
And they won.
Yeah, and they won. I mean, he heated up for the end. He scored like their last, whatever it was, like 15 points. Like, or maybe it was more than that. But in any case.
Pretty awesome and prototypical Kobe. But anyway, to the team that they have now, I think it's pretty similar to the team that we saw at the bottom of the East in Brooklyn, and that they have some scorers, but not a lot of defenders, and just lacking in talent and sort of high-level veterans that you see on other teams.
I don't know. I don't really feel like they're the same as the Nets. I guess you could say they're constituted similarly, but saying that the Nets have scorers and the Lakers have scorers is like totally different, because then saying the Nets have scorers is like, oh, they've got Bojan Bogdanovic and Jeremy Lin, whereas the Lakers have D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell's actually pretty good, John.
I don't know if he's a better scorer than Bojan Bogdanovic, but
okay.
I take your point.
Okay.
I would say they have higher upside.
All right, we're gonna stop the podcast now. John just said Bojan Bogdanovic might be as good as D'Angelo Russell.
No, I said scorer.
Yes, even that is undefendable, indefensible.
Right,
that's the word.
We should have a bet. See who averages more points per game this year.
Oh, I will make that bet, but we don't make bets. That's the whole point of doing this over-under podcast, is we actually don't make bets.
Well, it's okay. It'll just be between you and me.
Yeah, okay. That's fine. Shh, don't listen, government. All right, yeah, so I'm taking the under for the Lakers here. As you said, they only won 17 games last year. There will probably be some addition by subtraction when you take out Kobe, but this team is not terribly deep. And even if D'Angelo Russell plays really well, they're still playing the West. I think a lot of teams are really good. I think they're going to have a hard schedule, and honestly, I don't think they're going to win 7 games more than they did last year.
I agree. I'm also taking the under on the Lakers. I think this year is going to be much more about developing the young players like D'Angelo Russell, Brandon Ingram, and Julius Randle. Those are definitely some names to keep an eye on, but I don't think it will add up to more than 24 wins for them.
You know what's another name to keep an eye on? Timofey Mozgov is their starting center. He's pretty bad.
How could I forget?
He's pretty bad. And you know who's backing him up?
He's got a championship ring.
Zubac is actually backing up. He's actually much more interesting of a player. So that's something to keep an eye on, as you might end up seeing some more Zubac as the season goes on.
Who?
Ivica Zubac.
Is he a Pokemon?
No, Zubat. No,
Okay.
he's a foreign player drafted this last year. He actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, he was their second round pick.
He was one of the Zubac, Zubic, and Zugach, or there were like 3 Zujiches during this last draft.
Well, yeah. Anyway, I think that's probably more than enough time to spend on our last place team, the Lakers. But
And our least favorite team.
moving on to slightly greener pastures, we have the Phoenix Suns.
Ah, Phoenix. That's a green pasture.
Quite exactly.
No, this team's going to be pretty
their-
bad.
Yeah, their over-under is 30 wins. They had 23 wins last year. For me, I think they definitely lack the star power to be a contender. Obviously, that's why they're so far down. But I really do like their depth. They have one of the more intriguing groups of young players. And I think the West actually is going to be relatively wide open this year compared to years past once you get beyond the top three. And I don't have the Suns in the playoffs, but I do have them beating this 30-win projection.
Okay. Well, I can see reasons for optimism here. The main one is Devin Booker. Devin Booker is turning into possibly an all-star, one of the better scorers in the league type of performers.
And he's only like 19 or 20.
Yeah, no, he's really young and he has amazing game. People love this guy. He's really good. Unfortunately, I don't think that this team is really going to try to win all their games. I think they're probably going to trade Eric Bledsoe because this team is not built to win right now, and he's by far their best trade chip at the moment. Lots of teams want that guy. I could see them trading him for some more picks. They're also going to have probably a lot of playing time for Alex Len, Marquise Chris, and Dragan Bender. They're younger players. And these guys, while they might be good in the future, are probably not going to be great just right now. So they're probably going to be giving them a lot of playing time, and their learning curve is going to affect the team's win total. I'm actually going under for the Suns.
That's fair. I would especially point out Marquise Chris as some guy who's gotten early Rookie of the Year chatter already.
Wait, what?
Looks really good so far.
Where have you heard this?
Just the internet.
The internet water cooler? Okay, see, the last I'd heard about Marquise Chris is that he couldn't dribble yet.
What was he? He was like the number 6 pick or something, right?
Yeah, because he was like the most athletic guy that anyone had seen in like 5 years.
Yeah, and I know like you don't want to read too much into the preseason, but he's getting good reviews. I think he has good stats so far. I don't have it right in front of me, but anyway, people are saying keep an eye on Marquise Chris.
People are telling me. I hear it all the time. At rallies, I get so many people at my wrong podcast.
I'm glad you got the reference.
Let's move on. Let's move on to another team with big personalities and hands. I mean personalities. The Kings of Sacramento. They are projected at 34 wins. They
won 33 last year.
They won 33 last year, so they're projected to gain a win here. Only one major problem with this I see. Can you guess what it is?
Is it that they're the Kings?
Oh, that's actually a great idea. No, that's not what I was going to say. It's that they don't have a point guard, John. Their lead point guard, Darren Collison, is out. So they don't have a point guard.
Yeah, he looks like he was suspended.
Yeah. And so
I don't know how long he's out for.
You know who the only other point guard is on their roster, John?
I don't know. I know they lost Bino Udrih because we talked about him.
It's Ty on the wrong side of the Lawson. It's Ty Lawson.
Ooh.
And while
that could go poorly.
I used to really like this guy, but he has not shown that he can stay, healthy, fit, or out of off the court issues. And even when he was on the floor for the Rockets last year, he just wasn't good. I think he's done. I don't think he's a viable point guard in the league, and they don't even have anybody to back him up.
Okay, I brought up the roster. Garrett Temple, I believe he was on the Wizards, and he was playing some backup point guard to John Wall.
Oh, you're right. They have Garrett Temple. Sorry, they'll be fine.
Acquitted himself.
They'll be great.
Somewhat comfortably, at least relative to expectations. So, it might be the worst point guard situation in the league, but yeah, at least there's someone who's played there before in the NBA.
And the rest of their roster is not terribly well constituted either. If you look, their starters, they only have one starter who can shoot consistently well, and that's Aaron Aflalo, who's also getting older every year. And so Rudy Gay, DeMarcus Cousins, and Willie Cauley-Stein are supposedly all going to play together at the same time. And when you
Did Rudy Gay put himself on the trade block?
Yes, Rudy Gay is probably going to be traded. Also, DeMarcus Cousins at any time is possibly going to put himself on the trade market. All he has to do is say he doesn't like his new coach. Although I do like Dave Yeager, I don't know that he's the guy. I don't know if he's going to be the boogie whisperer everybody wants him to be.
Many have tried, none have succeeded.
Plus, I watched the first couple games of the season, and I was just watching the highlights, and literally there was this. They were playing the Spurs, and Ben McLemore got the ball stolen from him by Kawhi Leonard 3 times in a row.
That's hilarious.
Just like one-on-one dribbling, and Kawhi
surprising.
just reached out and took the ball and took it down the lane. It was kind of sad and kind of funny. Although I do like their draft picks. Scalaby Sierre, while he didn't play all that well in college, he was getting a lot of hype coming out of high school, and he's the kind of player that if you can be patient for a few years, he might be really good. George Papagiannis, I heard a lot of really good buzz about. And then Malachi Richardson. I really didn't like him because he was at Syracuse, but I did admire him as a player. I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah, that's fair. It's players that I think have potential, but are definitely not someone you base any sort of expectation on in terms of the Kings beating their over-under. 34, I think, if anything, they are probably worse than last year. And you have to consider them contenders, like you say, to trade away players like Boogie and Rudy Gay, which are going to make things worse, at least in this year. So I think the smart move is to take the under, which I'm doing. I'm taking the under, and I'm also making it my 4th lock.
Hey, we're in lock step on this one. I was also going to make this a lock. This is my 2nd lock, my first of the Western Conference. I think if you look at the point guard situation and the fact that it's been a chemistry morass over the last few years, and they're probably going to trade some important players, there's no way this team wins 34 games. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen.
Nice.
All right.
So I'm looking through my notes. I think I missed a lock because I don't see any more. I think my other lock was the Lakers.
As an under?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I probably wouldn't have done that myself. You never know. D'Angelo Russell's pretty good. He's almost as good as Bojan Bogdanovic, apparently, so, you know.
Yeah. And they did lose Kobe, so...
All right, yeah. Okay. Moving on to a very interesting team this year, the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, I think it's still kind of a mishmash of young role rotation bench players, which it has been for a little while now.
A lot of athleticism on this team.
That's true. They're trying to really work on their good shape as these young bucks. I don't know. I think some team from the bottom half of the West is going to improve. And I'm picking the under on basically every other team in this area, so I'm actually going to take the over on Denver. I think they have enough young, talented players that I expect some combination of Nurkic, Jokic, Moutier, Gary Harris, Jamal Murray to break out. And it doesn't have to be all of them, but if some of them do, I think they can exceed expectations.
Yeah, this is one that was actually pretty tough for me. I ended up taking the under. And while I don't really feel all that strongly about it, because I really do like a lot of the pieces they have, health is going to be an issue for them. So one of their more important players, Will Barton, is coming off a year of poor health. Mike Miller is still on their roster. That's always a bad sign. Now that he's whatever he is, he's like high 30s. I do like Nurkic and Jokic, although I think Jokic, in particular, may be getting a little bit more hype than he deserves. But we'll see. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, and that'll be great. I do think that possibly Danilo Gallinari will get traded, though. I think that's something people haven't considered. So if they trade him, I think that will probably take this team's win total down a little bit.
That's the parts are pretty interchangeable. Even losing Gallinari, I don't think would do them in too badly. I think
because they've been trying to trade him for a little while now.
Yeah, I am a little worried about maybe some guys like Moutier or like Gary Harris. It'll just turn out that they're not meant to be like superstar talents.
I don't know. Moutier's looked really good.
But yeah, we'll see. But hopefully he'll be able to develop a shot.
Jamal Murray, too. Interesting player.
Jokic. Like, the advanced stats love him, but a lot of people that watch also, kind of like you're saying, say maybe the hype has gone a little too far on him.
Nurkic is probably one of my favorite players to watch. Even though he's not one of the best, he's a crazy dude. Imagine if Russell Westbrook wasn't very athletic, but like had the same personality, but was just like heavier and bigger.
Yeah, I need to watch more Nuggets because these guys sound like they'd be fun to watch.
They're gonna
But
be
they're like never playing in a game that I actually will take time out of my day to watch. So I
yeah.
just haven't seen them play in like 3 years.
This is one of these League Pass teams that's gonna be really fun if you have League Pass. But we're both college students who don't have League Pass.
Not yet. Dream big.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's move on though. I think that's probably enough for Denver. Let's see the next team on our list, the New Orleans Pelicans. This is gonna be fun. Did you perchance notice what the young man Anthony Davis has been doing so far this season?
I watched like 2 seconds or 2 minutes or so of a game. They were playing the Warriors, and he just like flew out and stuffed Draymond Green shooting a three from like the free throw line. It was great.
Yeah. So his
So
stat
that's
line.
pretty much the extent of my knowledge.
Okay. Well, his stats for the first game alone, he had 50 points. Okay, 50 points,
It's not bad.
17 rebounds, 5
Okay.
steals, or 5 assists, and 7 steals, and 4 blocks. John,
That's
that's freaking incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the next game he played the Warriors was essentially on his own because nobody else on his team was playing well, and they were sending double teams of Kevin Durant and Draymond Green at him, and he still had 45 and 17. So through the first 2 games, he had 95 points and 30 some odd rebounds and like 10 blocks and a bunch of steals, and his team was 0-2 after that. This is why I'm taking the under on the New Orleans Pelicans. Literally, Anthony Davis is going to have just an amazing season, and I'm so excited for it because honestly, I think all this talk about Karl Anthony Towns has really gotten to him. I think people are saying he's not the best young player in the NBA anymore, and I think he is the best young player. I don't think Karl Anthony Towns is better. I think that he wants to show people this, and he's on the perfect team to do it because nobody else on his team can play.
I agree with all that except maybe the Towns bit. I think it's probably more along the lines of he just didn't have a great year because of health and other reasons. And it's more about him proving that he is good rather than better than any particular other player. But also, a lot of people, so they won 30 games last year, and their projection was 37. A lot of people are projecting improvement because they think he'll be healthy. And then there are other players that they have. They have Tyreek Evans and Drew Holiday.
Neither of whom are healthy right now. Not that Drew Holiday's unhealthy. Unfortunately, it's his wife that's unhealthy. But supposedly the news coming out of there is good recently, so maybe he'll get back on the floor later in the season.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, without them, those two guys, they really don't have anyone beyond Davis.
Their starting shooting guard is Etwan Moore. Love Etwan Moore as like a 9th or 10th man.
Yeah, they have like Etwan Moore, Langston Galloway. I think their next best player may be like Solomon Hill.
Solomon Hill's probably the most proven player left. Terrence.
All 2 minutes I was watching, I really liked Tim Frazier because he had like 2 layups where he went up going hard to the rim. I was impressed. But,
All right. So
potential superstar breakout.
No.
Don't watch for him.
Don't listen, dear listeners. Don't listen. I don't know. Maybe Lance Stevenson has another great year, just randomly. I don't see it happening. I'm pretty sure he's done. Quincy Pondexter needs to come back healthy if they're going to be good.
We forgot Buddy.
That was the next person I was going to talk about. I really loved Buddy at Oklahoma, and I think this was a good team for him to land on because he's going to get a lot of shots this year. It's going to be him and Anthony Davis are going to get all the shots they want probably, and I think that's what he's going to need to develop, and I really hope he becomes like a great player because imagining Buddy at his best, like when he was playing in Oklahoma, plus Anthony Davis at his best, that team could be really good. I just don't think it's going to be this year. I'm taking the under.
Me neither. Also taking the under, and I probably should have made it a lock, but I ran out of locks already. So,
I don't know. I decided against it just in case. Maybe Drew Holiday comes back earlier than we think. Maybe Pondexter comes back, and then all of a sudden, and maybe Buddy's good, and then maybe all of a sudden you've got Buddy, Solomon Hill, Anthony Davis, You
Yeah, I
know,
think the only way it would happen is if like Buddy becomes a star. But anyway,
I'm not discounting it.
yeah. So then we have the projected 10th seed in the West, 38.5 wins, Dallas Mavericks. They won 42 last year and have been a pretty consistent playoff team. But thinking is they will probably fall back this year, and I kind of agree with that. And I actually have them finishing even under this line at 38.5. I think they probably won't be super competitive for a playoff spot. I just feel like they're too old and too slow. It's like, think about their guys: Dirk, Bogut, Wes Matthews, Darren Williams, Devin Harris. That's one of the oldest teams in the league.
All right, see, you say old and slow. I say experienced. They've got some gamers on this team, John. And honestly, I'm really surprised that you're going so low on this team. I don't just have the over; I have a lock on the over here.
That is quite different. I think this is probably the biggest difference we've had.
Yeah, I mean, this team. So their major changes from last year. They brought in Andrew Bogut and Harrison Barnes from the best regular season team of all time. And you saw how important Andrew Bogut is just by watching the Warriors play for the first couple of games. He's a really important player, and I think people have not paid attention to that. Dirk needs a center who can guard the rim, and Bogut can do that. And while Barnes has not had a great start to the year, he's the kind of player that can be really useful, especially when playing alongside other players who will take shots, like Wes Matthews and Dirk Nowitzki.
I'm just not a big fan, especially of Harrison Barnes. I don't think he's that great of a player. Like, he got a max deal, I believe.
Okay, I mean, I don't think he's worth the money they paid, but I still think he's good.
I don't know. I mean, he might be better than the other options that they had, but I mean, to be honest, I don't even know for sure if he's actually better than Justin Anderson. So we'll see. I think it might be that he was just a product of being a role player on a great team. There's just so many other examples of where that happens. Players who seem really good because their team is really good, then they go somewhere else and can't contribute at the same level. I'm worried that's going to happen with Harrison Barnes, especially because he doesn't seem to be especially great at any particular skill, offensively or defensively. I don't know. I just don't quite see it with them. I do like Bogut a little bit more, especially because they need his interior defense. But health and durability always a question with Bogut.
Did you see him play in the Olympics?
A little bit, yeah.
He played for Australia, and Australia were sort of the surprise darlings of the tournament, and they played really well. And Andrew Bogut played especially well, especially when you consider that he was coming off of an injury, which everyone is very concerned about for Bogut, given his history. So I took that as a really encouraging sign. Also, they have the other Curry.
That's true. I wasn't thinking about Seth Curry.
Plus, Wes Matthews has a full healthy season now after coming back really early from his torn Achilles. And he was a great player for Portland before he got injured.
I don't know. It's harder for me to pick bounce back years from older players coming off of injuries. Like, all right. I'm not blocking it or anything. It could definitely happen, but we'll probably just have to agree to disagree here on Dallas. Next, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think one of the most interesting teams to do for this exercise. They won only 29 games last year, but they are projected for 40.5 wins. And everyone seems to think even that's low. Lots of people have Minnesota in their playoff projections. Do you think that's premature? Do you think they're a playoff team?
Lots of people like yours truly. I do not just have the over, John. I have the lock on the over. I am one of these people who are drinking the Tibbs Kool-Aid. I love this team. I think it's going to be so much fun to watch.
Guess what I picked?
What'd you pick?
I picked the under.
Did you lock it?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
I used my locks, but yeah, we're
it's twice in a row here. Okay, I guess I'm just more optimistic about these Western Conference teams.
Yeah, going through it again, just tonight, glancing over these, I wanted to change it because I don't think the other teams in the West are going to be that great. But I definitely think there are good reasons for picking the under as well. See, they would need 12 wins over last year to beat their over-under. And it doesn't seem like that different of a team in terms of the roster. It's pretty much the same people they had last year, plus I guess Chris Dunn. I think the big difference will be the coach, Tom Thibodeau.
Right.
Yeah, that's the big pickup for them. He's the kind of coach that's real intense and starts off great and does really well at the beginning and then kind of wears off in a couple of years, so maybe that'll be good for them this year.
Especially as young players.
Yeah, he's kind of a lot like Jose Mourinho. Just wears out his welcome, but then just like kicks everyone's butt the first year he's there.
Yeah.
Focuses on defense. He has never missed the playoffs, so perhaps not unwise to pick them to improve.
So one of the reasons I especially like this team, other than the Andrew Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns scenario, is like you were saying with Thibodeau coming in and his speciality being teaching people how to play defense. And you look at the people or the prospects you have on this team: Zach LaVine, Andrew Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns, Gorgie Jang, and Chris Dunn. And you've got a team of really young, really athletic, long guys. And that's kind of the formula for the way to build good defenders, is you take people that are crazy long. It's just like what the Bucks are doing. Team wingspan. This is team wingspan except better, in my opinion.
I would just point out that neither of those teams had that many wins last year with very similar rosters.
Well, neither of them had as good defensive coaches as the Timberwolves are going to have this season.
We'll see. I think it's a really good experiment to see, how much is a coach worth, how much is a system worth.
I also think that Chris Dunn is going to be a big upgrade. I mean, he's not starting yet. He's a backup point guard to Ricky Rubio. But
Ricky Rubio is really good, I think.
Well, okay, maybe. But one thing I think people don't realize is that although Chris Dunn is a rookie this year, he played college for 4 years. He's actually older than a bunch of the guys on this roster. So he actually, I don't think, will have any trouble sliding into the NBA. He's a big point guard. He's got a great game. He was the leading scorer at Providence. He's one of the contenders for National Player of the Year last year. Also, this team brought in Cole Aldridge, who was a really good veteran presence for the Clippers last year. And they have Nikola Pekovic whenever he comes back. And he's been actually quietly pretty good.
Yep, and Chris Dunn, one of those guys who is also getting Rookie of the Year chatter, the only question being playing time. Will he ascend to getting starter minutes?
Also,
actually a starter.
I just want to say that we managed to talk about the Timberwolves for like a few minutes without mentioning Karl Anthony Towns and how much everybody loves him. I said his name very briefly. Karl Anthony Towns, by the way, in case people are listening to our show who aren't that familiar with the NBA, is going to be a second-year player out of Kentucky who, starting after the All-Star break last year, basically lit the league on fire.
I didn't even realize this, how good he was.
I
started reading some of the coverage for this year, but apparently he's a pretty baller.
No, people are justifiably really excited about this guy. He's super fun to watch. He can step out and play from the perimeter. He can shoot threes occasionally, but he's got a really nice elbow jumper, and when he's in the post, he's pretty much impossible to stop. And he's also a great defender.
And Zach LaVine won the dunk contest, so it should be a fun team regardless of the results.
Zach LaVine didn't just win the dunk contest. He won what was probably the best dunk contest of all time.
Isn't it like his third in a row as well or something? Or second in a row?
I think second in a row, but yeah.
Okay.
But Andrew Wiggins, former #1 overall pick, really good superstar potential. We'll see how this team turns out. I'm really excited. And that's why I have the lock on the over. All right.
Another team, maybe not quite as exciting, the Memphis Grizzlies.
This is a really hard team.
That's always there, fighting around a playoff spot. I think it's a team that has a really nice starting lineup and not a great bench. And for me, that doesn't speak very well to a season where you're going to be going through constant change for many different reasons. They're also older, and I think a lot of teams around them got better. I see them actually as very similar to Dallas, and I am taking the under with them on 42.5 wins.
I had a lot of trouble with this pick just because it hinges entirely upon health. For a lot of teams, you can say that it's a bit of a cop-out, but if you look at the starting lineup of this team, Mike Conley, Tony Allen, Zach Randolph, Marc Gasol, and you add in Chandler Parsons, if that team is healthy, they're going to win a lot of games. However, This is Marc Gasol coming off of a broken foot, which is one of the worst injuries you can possibly have as a big man. Zach Randolph, who's now pretty old, although he is in a contract year. Chandler Parsons, who's been injured pretty much on and off for the last 2 seasons. And Mike Conley, who, although his injuries weren't of the chronic type, has had some problems in the last few years. Plus, you look at this team, and while that starting lineup sounds great, the best player on their bench is almost certainly Vince Carter, who's also the oldest player in the NBA.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Although I do like his old man game. It's really good. He's fun to watch. But so I think this is a veteran team. I think they're going to be really good if they can stay healthy. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt because I like their roster, this top end of their roster so much. I gave them a slight over. I'm thinking they're going to win like low 40s, probably 42, 43 games, so I took the over.
Okay. If they win 42, they won't get it.
I know. I think they're going to win at least 43. I think they're going to be in the hunt. There's always the last couple of years they've been like 4 or 5 teams fighting for those last 2 or 3 playoff spots. I think the Grizzlies are going to be one of them.
There's definitely an argument for them getting it together. I mean, it's basically the same roster as last year plus Parsons.
Yeah, and that's kind of what they needed was a shooter, and they got Chandler Parsons.
Right. Just for me, I think it's assuming everything goes well, and I'm thinking the odds are that 1 or 2 things are going to go wrong and they'll come out just under. But either way, we're pretty close on Memphis. And number 7 is Oklahoma City. That's, I guess you got to start with the loss of Kevin Durant. I mean, if you're an OKC fan, that's got to sting. Especially after it looked like he might stay, early on in last year. I think it wasn't really until close to the offseason that it really looked like he was going to leave.
Yeah, they also lost Serge Ibaka. So one of the reasons that people really liked this team last year and they came so close to being the Warriors was they had a bunch of these crazy tall, crazy long defenders who could cause you tons of headaches whenever you were trying to score the ball. And they lost probably the 2 longest players on their team. That being said, the win projection total went down, so it's only 43.5. They won more games than that last year, although honestly they should have won way more games. They kind of underperformed and they lost a lot of games at the end of games.
Well, they picked it up at the end of last year. They finished 3rd in the conference with 55 wins.
Yeah, so without Durant and Ibaka, you're basically expecting them to drop, what is it?
4 spots in the standings and 11 to 12 games.
11 to 12 games is a lot, but Durant is probably the 2nd or 3rd best player in the NBA, so that's reasonable. I liked the deal they made to get Victor Oladipo and Sabonis. I think those are players who are really going to help them, especially Oladipo.
And Ilyasova, he's a stat stuffer.
I'm not as huge on Ilyasova, but I guess he is useful, especially to slide in behind Steven Adams. But you look at the team, they got Steven Adams, Victor Oladipo, Roberson's a great defender, plus they have Russell Westbrook in like the most revenge year of all revenge years, and he has already been crushing it. He's going for triple-doubles every night. He had a 50-point triple-double the other night. And it's not like Anthony Davis where he's putting up crazy stats and his team is losing. Actually, he's like putting up great stats, and at the end of games, he's producing and winning games. So he played one recently where he actually made the final 2 shots going into overtime and then basically won the game for them in overtime.
I can't wait to see this Western Conference All-Star team. It's like Russell
so
Westbrook,
fun. It's gonna be so
Anthony Davis,
funny.
Karl Anthony Towns,
And then the Warriors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's gonna be super fun.
I like the Oladipo pickup as well. He actually just signed a new contract today, I believe.
Oh, cool.
And with Russell Westbrook's revenge tour, I do think this team could be a contender in the West. The biggest problem for them is probably going to be a lack of shooting. Only Anthony Morrow is the only real shooter I see for them. And he's been kind of up and down. The projections, or the projection at 43.5 is, I think, about in line with how the Thunder performed without Durant. And I think the team around Westbrook is a little better than it was at that time, so I think they can be a little stronger than that, and I'll take the over.
Yeah, I'm taking the over as well, mostly for respect for Westbrook, but also based off the same logic that without Durant before and Westbrook going crazy, they averaged about, I think it was like a 45 win pace, so they were averaging the over Plus, they've added Steven Adams, and this is a team that I think is better than that former team. And Russell Westbrook is just going to be out of his mind this year, and it's going to be so much fun to watch. So I'm up on the Thunder. I'm taking the over.
Very good. 6, we have the Houston Rockets at 44 wins. They won 41 last year. For me, this was one of the more difficult ones to figure out what I wanted to do. It's a team that should have a really strong offense and a really not so strong defense.
Yeah.
And consider that their coach is Mike D'Antoni. That's pretty much his MO as a coach. And then you compound that with having players like James Harden and Ryan Anderson, and Eric Gordon, and Patrick Beverley being hurt. I mean, it's going to be one of those unstoppable force versus immovable object.
Versus very, very movable object.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the unstoppable force is the very movable object.
So I picked the over, but really, I mean, it could go either way. How about you?
Okay, again, I picked the over, and I didn't just pick the over. This is my final lock. This is lock number 5. I am locking the Rockets at over 44 games. I think this team is going to win 50 games.
Okay, so you're feeling really good about this mid-tier and the West tier. Okay.
Right, maybe not 50. That's too strong. Maybe, but anyways, I think they're going to win 47 games at least. I think this team is going to win games 125 to 119, and they're going to be totally okay with that. That's how Mike D'Antoni coaches. That's how James Harden plays. That's how Ryan Anderson plays. They looked so good this preseason. I know you don't want to overrate the preseason, but they looked awesome. Plus, you look at their bench. I actually kind of like the players they've got. Beyond a really good starting lineup of great scorers, you've got Sam Decker, Montrezl Harrell. These are players who were really great in college. Sneaky player KJ McDaniels. I think he's the potential to be a great two-way player. And when you look at the possibility of playing KJ McDaniels, Patrick Beverley, Clint Capella, and Trevor Ariza in the same lineup, that actually doesn't sound like a bad defensive team. So I think there's a possibility that this team actually morphs into a semi-defensible roster.
And Nene, he can defend.
I'm not putting Nene on that list.
Except
he played no defense in Washington the last few years,
Toronto.
as much as I liked watching him play.
I don't know. I think he can still play some defense. And Clint Capella, a lot of people are high on him. James Harden, is he a point guard now? Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, you didn't hear? They asked D'Antoni what position James Harden was going to play, and he said he's going to play points guard.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Points guard. Plural.
Oh, I get it.
He gets points. It was really funny. Yeah, no, he's the one who's going to be handling the ball.
It's true, though. The funniest jokes have some truth to them.
Yeah, he's going to handle the ball, and he's going to take 25 to 30 shots a game, and he's going to score a lot of points. There's a lot of James Harden for MVP possibility, depending on how well the Thunder the Rockets end up doing. I think they had a really bad season last year, partially for chemistry reasons. James Harden was dating a Kardashian. That's always a bad sign. He came in from training camp overweight. He got hurt. I don't know, this team, and Dwight Howard was still in the mix, and I don't think that relationship was ever great. They now have Mike D'Antoni, who I think is a much better coach for their style of play, which is just to outscore people. And I think that the young players they've picked up are really good. Plus, if you want to score a lot of points and not play defense, picking up Aaron Gordon and Ryan Anderson is a really good idea.
That's fair. What was I going to say? We were talking. So in terms of the MVP, interesting fact I saw today. No player in the last 30 years has won MVP without being top 3 with their team being top 3 in the conference. So if you're picking Harden or Anthony Davis or anyone to win the MVP, you're right or wrong, you're kind of expecting their team to do well. Which to me, I don't think that's how it should be. But I don't know. I could just see it going to someone on Golden State this year.
I don't think anyone from Golden State's going to win it. I mean, we'll get there when we get there, but I think there's too much talent on that team.
It's very, just the point is it's very narrative-driven rather than stat-driven, unfortunately.
Right. Well, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think you would still say Harden's a contender for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on. I had the Rockets at over and lock, and you had them under. So this will be fun. Or you had
no. I have them over.
Oh, you just had them playing over. Okay. All right. Um, Moving on to the Portland Blazers. So their over-under is 45.5 wins. I took the over on the Portland Blazers. I feel pretty good about them.
Okay, I took the under. They won 44 last year, and essentially I thought that they were somewhat of an overachiever. I mean, everyone had them projected to be like a bottom 2 or 3 team in the West, if I recall. And then it turned out that losing Aldridge really barely even hurt them. So I don't know. I think it's more likely that there's some regression to the expectations. Although it's not a bad team. I do think it's still a playoff team in all likelihood. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like they have that much beyond Lillard and McCollum. I think if they're gonna be fighting for home court advantage in the West, they need a third guy to step up, and I just don't know who that would be.
Yeah, I agree that if this team does well, it's going to be on the shoulders of Lillard and McCollum. However, I just think that they can handle it. I think that they are good enough to take your team to 46 wins. If you have a relatively good cast behind them, and then for a possible player who could step up is the player who's probably going to be leading their bench unit, Evan Turner. So he was a big pickup for them. I think he fits really well with the idea of what they're going to do. Oh, don't oof Evan Turner. He played really well for Boston.
Evan Turner fan.
He played well for Boston the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean he's a ball dominant player.
Yeah, which is why he's a great bench leader. Well,
yeah, okay, he's not bad, but yeah, he was part of a big class for Portland this year. As one of their stories was they just re-signed like everybody on their bench.
Alan Crabb,
teams
big
don't
signing.
usually do anymore. Yeah, they re-signed Evan Turner, Alan Crabb, Myers Leonard, and Mo Harkless.
They also brought in Festus Ezeli, although I don't know that I like what I've been hearing about him. Although he had a good season last year with the Warriors, I am hearing that his knees are possibly shot, which is not really what you want to be hearing about your nice big new acquisition. But if you can plug him in behind Mason Plumlee, that would be helpful.
Or as like a secret weapon if you're playing them in the playoffs. You can
just have him scare people.
Yeah.
And then
give away their secrets. Yeah.
They also have two of my favorite college players who haven't panned out yet, but I still have hope in. Shabazz Napier, one of my very favorites from UConn. I loved watching him. He was Kemba 2.0 / Kobe. I just loved watching him play. He just ice in his veins.
He is not. I would say he has not looked good in the NBA.
He has not looked good in the NBA, and that might not work out. But you never know. I still really like him. And then Pat Connaughton. I don't know if you know this guy.
Oh yeah,
he was the crazy man from Notre Dame.
Yeah, I remember.
He's another guy who's just.
He was a guy who pitched like a 95-mile-an-hour fastball as well.
He's also really good at baseball, but he also hit a bunch of really clutch shots in his college career, and he had a couple games where he just went plain insane. He's also got the flaming red hair. His name is Pat Connaughton. I don't know. I like this guy. I don't know if he's going to be good in the NBA, but he's at least going to be fun for me to watch personally.
Interesting. I don't know. I think probably the most likely of anyone to ascend would be Noah Vonleh, just because of his pedigree coming into the draft. But anyway, yeah, I just still feel the bench is, for me, not that impressive, and feel relatively good about the under there. Number 4 in the conference, the Utah Jazz. Everyone's darling this year. They won 40 games last year. Their over-under is 49 this year. It's somewhat understandable considering how great of a second half they had.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm actually down on the Jazz compared to all the buzz I've been hearing about them. I do say that they brought in some really good players. Joe Johnson actually looked really good in their first couple games, although there's a lot of concern, I think justifiable concern, about his age and about the fact that he hasn't been a leader on his team in quite some time in terms of scoring. I do like Gordon Hayward. I like Derek Favors. I like a lot of players on this team. I think Gobert's really good. And I think that they're going to win like 47, 48 games, but I don't know. Their over-under at 49 seems high to me because I don't think they're going to win 50.
I agree, actually. I do have the under on them. I think it's a playoff team, like mid-40s in wins.
Yeah, no, I definitely think they're going to make the playoffs.
But yeah, it's not a superstar-led team. So you wonder how well they're going to be able to compete against teams with a lot of star power, like the next three teams we're going to talk about. It's also a little slow, and yeah, it does feel like a team that maybe there's a little too much hype for them right now. But there are a lot of above-average players, which make them good for the playoffs, but not necessarily home court.
One thing about the
I am a fan of the George Hill pickup, I'll say.
I was just about to say, I think the George Hill hype is overblown.
Well, I think he's solid. He can play both guard positions, both offensively and defensively, and he's a smart player. He's someone who's not going to kill your team with errors, and a lot like the rest of the other players on the Jazz. I don't know, and he can shoot, so I don't see how it's a bad pickup for them.
Well, when you say he can shoot, he can make open shots. I don't know that that's necessarily the same thing. I guess it's still useful, but I've never been super high on George Hill. I thought he was fine in Indiana. I just don't think he's like a transformative player who's going to take you over the top or anything. I guess he's definitely an upgrade at the point guard position for the Jazz over the last couple of years. He's an adult. They've had a bunch of really young guys plugged in there, and I think that's probably hurt them. So I think overall he will help the team. I just don't think it's going to make that big of a difference, and I don't think that this team, like you were saying, has any significant star players other than Gordon Hayward maybe who can help take your team up to 50 wins. I just don't see it.
Agreed.
So we're both under.
So we both have the under. Interesting. The Los Angeles Clippers are number 3 in the West. They won 53 last year, and their over-under is 53.5, so status quo is the projection for Los Angeles. What say you?
I say over. I feel pretty good about this team. This team won 53 games last year without Blake Griffin, basically. He missed like 3/4 of the season, part of which was for breaking his hand by punching one of their equipment managers. So if you manage to win 53 games during that, I think you'll probably be able to win 54 this year.
It did seem like they disappointed last year, but still won, I believe, the 4 seed in the West. They're really good. I love Chris Paul. He's probably my favorite player in the NBA other than LeBron. I think he's the only player on LeBron's level in terms of being a floor general in the NBA. And then the rest of their lineup in crunch time, J.J. Redick, Jamal Crawford, DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin. I mean, it might be the best lineup outside of Golden State's.
That's actually not an insane claim to make, especially when you just watch them play basketball. It's really hard to stop their go-to play, which is, especially if they have Blake Griffin operating healthy, you have Chris Paul drive towards the middle, dish it to Blake Griffin, who takes 2 steps and then draws a double team and just lobs the ball anywhere within like 25 feet of the rim, and DeAndre Jordan will catch it and dunk it because he's the giant man of this team, and
over people.
He's huge. He can jump out of the gym, and it's really impossible to stop that play. And if they can just pull that off while having J.J. Redick, Chris Paul, and Jamal Crawford shooting around the outside, that's a good formula. That'll get you a lot of wins.
Question though, do you think that in a playoff series they can challenge Golden State? Because I'm not sure that they can, and I think they have sort of the same issue they've had for a while, which is their perimeter defense. I think Golden State's just so difficult to guard. Like, I can't see J.J. Redick, Jamal Crawford, and chasing guys around, and DeAndre Jordan has to guard someone that's not going to hang around under the rim unless Pachulia is in.
Yeah, no. They did bring in a warrior, maybe, but I don't think Maurice Spates is really going to help you with your perimeter D. As much as I liked him. And Paul Pierce, I'm sorry, he's too old to play defense at anywhere on the floor, really, as much as I like him. And even their new acquisitions of Raymond Felton, who actually has been getting a lot of positive buzz for how he played last year with the Mavericks as a good backup point guard, which is something that this team really needs. And then Brandon Bass, who's a solid guy, but I don't think he's going to make the difference against the Warriors. I do like their draft picks, Diamond Stone and Bryce Johnson, both from University of North Carolina. I liked watching them play, but they're both big guys, and I don't think that they're going to make a huge difference again, like you were saying, against the lineup of death, where the biggest player on the floor for Golden State is going to be Kevin Durant, who can shoot the lights out.
If they were going to do the strategy that some teams do, is to go big against them, you'd say Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan just beat them up inside, I think that's going to be a lot harder against this year's iteration of the Warriors with Kevin Durant, because now one of them has to guard him, as opposed to being hidden on some combination of Iguodala and like Harrison Barnes or something.
Yeah, the thing I would say is that if you watch the first game of the season where the Warriors actually lost to the Spurs, a big part of that was they were getting beaten up on the both offensive and defensive boards. They really were not able to rebound effectively, and so I guess you could say that's a formula for helping to beat this team. But they also had a terrible shooting night. Especially Klay Thompson missed like 9 3-pointers. That's not going to happen most nights, and so I don't think you can necessarily rely upon it. I want to see more as the season goes onwards, but I do think that at least for their over/under, they will be able to get a lot of wins here for the Clippers.
Okay, I'm actually gonna reverse basically what I've been saying and take the under.
What?
I'm kind of gambling on something happening in terms of dysfunction with the team. We saw a little bit of that last year. Chris Paul and Blake Griffin might be leaving after this year.
Blake Griffin to the Celtics?
So there's a slight chance that something could go very wrong. I do think they're a team that may end up resting players for the playoffs to get ready for that big series against the Warriors or the Spurs. And again, their depth, I think they improved it with the players you mentioned, but again, we haven't seen much to suggest that their depth can compete with the depth of other teams that have really invested in young players in the draft. So I'm taking the under. I definitely see the argument for the over. I just am kind of gambling here on the under.
Okay, well, we disagree, but that's fine. Moving on to the probably second best team. It's certainly second highest ranked team in the West, and some say in the league. This would be the San Antonio Spurs. Their over-under is only 58.5 wins. They won 67 games last year. John, where do you think the drop-off is?
Well, they don't have Tim Duncan, so I think that's worth at least like 8 wins right there.
Tim Duncan played like 0 minutes. He was not.
Tim Duncan.
He was not playing a lot last season, John. This team is Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge, and that has not changed.
I agree. I took the over. I do think they're going to miss Timmy, especially on defense. But they looked pretty good against Golden State in that game. I did watch some of that game. They won by like 30 or something. So.
Yeah. And you know what the takeaway from that is? Kawhi looked awesome. He is somebody who I think is a great MVP bet.
I agree. If I had to put money on someone, it would probably be him.
Yeah, this is going to be the year of Kawhi, I think.
And because it has to be someone in one of the top 3 teams. Golden State will split votes. And if I wasn't going to pick Kawhi, I might pick Jonathan Simmons, because he looked really good in that game.
Okay, all right. Let's not get carried away here.
He did look good, though. I think he's the next guy in that pipeline of just random guys that the Spurs turn into really solid players.
See, this is actually a problem I have with this team. While Popovich has a great history of turning these guys, from nobodies into really productive NBA players, and he appears to have struck gold again with Jonathan Simmons. Look at their bench. Who are these guys? They don't really have a bunch of players who are proven NBA talents, and eventually that's probably going to be a problem for them. I just don't feel super confident in their ability to produce in the back end of games.
They'll get Danny Green back soon, I believe. They still have Manu and Patty Mills, and David Lee, of course, has been around for forever.
Yeah, but he hasn't been good for forever. He hasn't been good for 3 years.
Right, and Tony Parker, I think, continues somewhat of a decline, but it will be really interesting to see, and I think the team sort of hinges on how LaMarcus Aldridge and Pau Gasol work together. I think offensively, I don't recall seeing a team like that has 2 basically stretch 4s who would like to play the elbow on offense, and it must have worked pretty well against Golden State, but
well, they dominated the rebounding.
We'll have to see how that develops over the course of the season. But yeah, I don't remember any other team kind of looking like that.
Yeah, basically my impression of the Spurs is they're not going to be as good as they were last year. Part of which is they're not racing to catch Golden State. I'm willing to bet they will concede the wins race. So I think they'll win. I still think they're going to win 60 games, though. I think
they're ahead of them right now, I believe.
Yeah, Greg Popovich has a great roster. He's a great coach. And then as Kawhi and LaMarcus Aldridge being your top two, that's a really good team. I think they're going to win 60 games. So I'd take the over.
Yeah, so we both have the over.
Yeah.
And then that leaves us with Golden State.
Come out
Their
and play.
over-under this year is 66.5. They won 73 games last year, all-time record. And then coming off a 73-win season, they make the biggest move of the offseason and sign top free agent JaVale McGee.
How long were you waiting for that joke? I got really excited when I saw him on the bench, actually. This team needs a big guy, John. This team needs JaVale McGee.
Is more of a harbinger of success than JaVale McGee.
Oh, faux show. No, I'm a JaVale McGee believer, actually. It's a little-known fact about me. That should be my fun fact. I believe in JaVale McGee.
Well, the sad thing is they might actually need to use him because they've somewhat sacrificed their depth to sign Durant.
Yep.
Which, I mean, obviously you would make that trade, but it's going to be interesting to see over the course of the season if they're going to be able to keep playing. I don't think they'll be trying to play at the breakneck pace that they did last year, but 66.5 is really high. I did this. I added up, you know how many seasons there have been in NBA history? I'm guessing no. There's been 1,424 seasons of teams.
It's a lot.
What's up?
I said that's a lot of seasons.
Yeah, and 12 teams have finished over 66.5.
That's not a great percentage.
1,424. So, obviously, this is a team that has the talent to do that, but I don't know if it's smart to gamble on picking that many things break right for anybody. And it doesn't look so great early on, you have to say. They got crushed by the Spurs and eked out wins against like Phoenix and New Orleans.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what do you have for them?
I almost took the under for this. 66.5 games is a lot of games. You say they're going to win 67 games if you take the over here. I don't think this team is going to come sniffing near their 73-win season. I think in order to do that, you have to have a really special group of guys who can complement each other in just the right way. This roster is not well balanced. That is just a very certain fact. They have amazing talent in 4 positions and like 2 good backup players, but they don't have anyone to play the big guy positions. Zaza Pachulia is your starting center. He has not looked very good. And then you're backing him up with Anderson Varejao, who's kind of pretty much done at this point. I don't know. He can, I guess, be an energy guy, but what does he really give you? It's certainly not shooting. And then Damian Jones, who I've never watched him play. And then JaVale McGee. I don't know. Assuming JaVale McGee works out, which of course it will, then they'll be great.
I don't know. David West could be okay, so maybe 3 bench guys.
I really like David West as a player, but 3 years ago. Especially last year for the Spurs, he sort of disappointed. And maybe it was just because of the teams he was playing against, but he did not look well suited to the Western Conference. So I'm a little worried about the David West stuff. I mean, I hope this team is awesome. I did end up taking the over, but it's very close.
I actually took the over as well.
Yeah.
After all that, if I could switch one team, it would probably be this one, just based off
the first couple of weeks
early on and how crazy they have to be to get to 67 wins. But it's still not impossible. They could rip off a 30-game win streak.
I don't know that they can. I actually should have taken the under on this. I don't know. I'm not switching it now though.
Actually, I think the reason I probably took the over was because I took the under on them last year.
Oh, you got burned.
Yeah, it did not work so well. And so I'm just really afraid to pick the under on them again. But I do think the under is a good call. However, I picked the over before the season started and now cannot change it.
I don't know. I'm sticking with it.
So we both have tentative overs here for Golden State.
Yeah, they still have Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and Klay Thompson shooting threes, and Draymond Green probably playing at the 4 with Andre or at the 5 with their death lineup and Andre Iguodala Sean Livingston coming off the bench. This is still going to be a really great team. They're going to be super fun to watch.
Yeah, maybe we don't need to feel too bad about it.
No. We're feeling bad about saying the Warriors are going to get the over. That's crazy. We shouldn't feel bad about this. All right. Well,
No.
that's
Nor do we feel bad about finishing up the NBA podcast preview for the season.
I know. It ran a little long. It was almost exactly an hour. But hey, who doesn't love listening to us talk, right? Certainly not us.
That's what counts.
Yeah, alright. In any case, this is going to be a really incredibly fun season. I'm going to enjoy watching this, and I hope you all do as well. And now a little bit better informed, perhaps.